From admitting that there's no replacing the current actor, to the franchise not having room for a sequel in the first place, the Flash director Andy Muschietti has confirmed his plans for Ezra Miller's future, and here's what he had to say. When talking about a possible sequel, the director thinks no one comes close to the current star. He praised Miller for their portrayal of not one, but two Barry Allens in the movie. Andy also thinks that no one can play the character as well as they did, which made fans feel like this was a jab at the CW star Grant Gustin. But not to worry, Muschietti made it clear that other depictions of the character are great too, but this particular vision of the Scarlet Speedster was just something else. Ezra excelled in the role and stole the spotlight, as if this hero was made for them. The director's sister and producer Barbara Muschietti also expressed her appreciation for the actor. In principal photography, she said that Ezra was brilliant, the most committed, and the most professional. Working with Miller made Barbara realize that they gave everything for this role, physically, creatively, and emotionally. So the Muschiettis think that the Fantastic Beast actor was absolutely supreme and would love for them to reprise their role in the future. This isn't news to the fans though, because the director talked about his experience with Miller before the film's release too. And he's worked with a lot of people in the past, including Jessica Chastain and Nikolai Coster-Waldau in Mama. For the two It movies, he worked with stars like James McAvoy, Bill Skarsgård, Bill Hader, Finn Wolfhard, and many more. But get this, he said that working with Miller's been one of the best experiences with an actor in his whole career. It wasn't until he met them that he realized that they were an impeccable comedian too, which Andy got the idea from the movies he's seen before. He described this sense of humor as a force that drove Miller to portray two characters in the movie, young Barry and old Barry. Muschietti also praised the actor for flawlessly switching from one character to the other, and commented on the commitment, the discipline, humor, and the fun that radiated off of them. The reason Andy thinks Ezra isn't going anywhere as the fastest man alive is because this blockbuster was the movie that portrays their full abilities as a performer. Before this, Miller worked on small independent films and was considered to be an obscure actor in Hollywood. But this is just Andy's opinion of Miller, and I don't think he's in charge of setting up the big picture. So, what does the co-president of DC Films have to say about Ezra's future in the franchise? When asked about the star back in April 2023, James Gunn didn't give a direct answer. Instead, he said that they'll just have to see, which is a pretty decent response, because if anything, this franchise is struggling more than Superman after being exposed to some kryptonite. His Twitter likes hinted at a possible replacement, since he liked a tweet where a fan assumed that the ending of The Flash happened in a completely different timeline. Why's that? Well, spoilers ahead if you haven't seen it yet, but the Bruce Wayne of that universe is George Clooney. Since The Brave and the Bold is a planned project in the first chapter of Gunn's new universe, it wouldn't really make sense for Clooney to be the Batman of the timeline. It looks like the Guardians of the Galaxy director hasn't changed his mind from the "we'll see" approach, though his business partner Peter Safran has other things in mind. So you know how Miller was on a criminal rampage for a few years in the early 2020s? They issued a public apology for their behavior and promised the fans that they were seeking professional treatment for their mental health. Now, Safran is interested in keeping Miller around in the DCU, on one condition though. The co-president said that he won't be discussing the future of Barry Allen until Ezra has fully recovered. He said that the actor's committed to getting better, so it's easier for both of them and the fans to comfortably reprise the role. Peter thinks that when the time is right and when they're ready to have the discussion, only then will the team figure out the next move. In fact, Gunn and Safran had conversations with a 30-year-old claiming that they're making enormous progress. That's good news, right? Well, to a majority of fans, it really isn't. Since a lot of them want Ezra gone immediately, some crimes are unforgivable. In this case, it's the actor's charges of assault, the reports of theft, leading a cult, owning guns, and grooming a minor. When someone looks at Barry Allen, they don't really want to think of all those horrible things that Miller did. On top of that, the 30-year-old is unapologetically and openly queer, which gives some people even more reason to not like the actor. But if you look at things in a completely unbiased way, people think that Ezra doesn't really understand the character. After the theatrical cut of Justice League, everyone thought that this was DC's attempt at their own quirky little Peter Parker. The Snyder Cut did bring back a bit of hope to all these characters, especially that one scene where Barry runs back in time to save the League. but it didn't give a lot of people the impression that this is the Scarlet Speedster that's here to stay, because Miller's criminal record makes them too problematic to keep the role. Fans actually wanted them to be replaced with Grant Gustin, who's had a decade-worth experience with the character on the show. So when everyone found out that Muschietti wants Ezra to stay in the long run, no one was having it. I mean, Andy, James, and Peter all enjoyed working with Miller. But what about the ones who weren't so okay with him? In one of her interviews, Supergirl Sasha Calle avoided talking about the actor. When asked what it was like working with them, she quickly diverted the question and talked about working with her stunt team instead. And let me tell you, I'm pretty sure the crew got more compliments from Sasha than Miller could ever in a lifetime. She told the interview that she can't not talk about her stunt team, because from the moment she arrived to the moment she left, they were like a family to her through and through. Calle replaced Ezra on the press tour and filled in their boots in all the interviews. This was one of the things that gave everyone the impression that this movie was gonna flop, because how can you promote a movie without the lead star in any of the events? But hey, the other cast members had super positive things to say. Unlike Supergirl, Kiersey Clemens, who plays Iris West, spoke about the actor back in February 2023, saying it was tough to see her co-star situation and that she didn't know how to feel because they'd had such a great time working together on set. Michael Shannon, aka General Zod, called Miller a lovely person who was very kind to him when he was shooting his scenes. Ben Affleck has history with Ezra because they've been working together since Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice and Justice League. Both these films were under Zack Snyder's control, and the environment with him in charge was something completely different. I mean that in a good way, of course. Behind the scenes, Affleck's interactions with Miller were some of the most wholesome things people have ever seen in the superhero genre. Who would have thought a broody guy such as Bruce Wayne was capable of smiling every now and then? Other co-stars like Ray Fisher from Justice League and Jason Momoa have all had similar experiences with the Flash actor. Calle is the only one who avoided talking about them, which means something's gotta be up. Any deets on the two of them haven't made it to the internet, but all this is making me question one thing. Will there even be a Flash sequel? I mean, the first one was a box office bomb. Fans did not like the messy visual effects or the disrespectful cameos, which ended up being nothing but fan service. If a second part is going to be just like the 2023 release, then I don't think anyone needs to worry about who the next actor will be. Gunn's already hinted at Ezra's potential replacement, but the guy who actually directed The Flash and will be directing The Brave and the Bold says otherwise. The co-presidents have a lot of thinking to do before racing to the next step of their franchise. With the new Superman Legacy cast already getting a negative reaction by the fans, David Corenswet and Rachel Brosnahan have a lot of work to do if they want to make the fans happy. So there you have it. From the franchise not having room for a sequel in the first place, to Andy himself admitting that there's no replacing the current actor, this was what the Flash director confirmed for Ezra Miller's future.